Hey YouTube, Casey here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the newest wave of Grandpa Clone Customs figures. Some of the highlights being the restocked BARC Trooper and also a OG Battlefront 2 Jet Trooper, alongside a lot of other characters as well. I feel like GCC's last wave did something really cool and exciting, producing a lot of characters people really wanted, like Commander Devis and the Republic version of Crosshair. But this wave just honestly does not seem as exciting to me, even though there are still some good figures. But I'll talk about that individually with each one, so let's go ahead and hop into the review. Alright, so taking a look at the first figure here, we have the OG Battlefront 2 Jet Trooper. Taking a look at these side by side, you can see the Jet Trooper is pretty much just like a normal 501st Trooper, but he obviously has different helmet printing, the big jetpack, and some straps on his torso. The green visor works surprisingly well for this design, but I'm not too big of a fan of the black on the helmet. In order to fit with LEGO's design style, GCC didn't want to print past 180 degrees on the helmet, but I feel like it really hurts it overall because it ends up just looking like sideburns on the side of the helmet instead of some cool black highlights. I do think the green visor looks really nice though, and the fact that it's metallic really adds a lot to the figure. But yeah, I don't think it looks too bad, but the side of the helmet is just not as good as it could be. I do like the colored in cheeks, but then past that, it just doesn't look the best. One thing that is done very well though on this figure is the jetpack printed on the back, which looks pretty unique and is done in a similar style to how Commander Cody's was printed. You can see these straps on the front of the torso also continue around to the back at the top, so I'm not sure if those are meant to help like hold the jetpack in place or something, but it's cool that that continues around the back. This is just one of those figures that I don't understand why you'd really pick it up from GCC. It's a very weird variant of a character, and I do think it is cool in concept, but just paying $24 for this figure just is not worth it, I feel like. I wish the helmet was executed a little bit better, and then they would have just sold it as a individual helmet, a replica helmet for $2.50, and that would have been a great thing to do. And then if you wanted an OG 501st Jet Trooper, while it wouldn't be as completely accurate, you could just throw one of these helmets on top of a normal 501st Trooper and get a figure like that. But overall, I do not recommend you pick up this character, but let's look at what the next one is. Next up, we have my favorite minifigure from the drop, which is the 327th BARC Trooper. And this one released earlier in the year, but is finally getting restocked and is based off of some comics where he appears alongside Commander Devis, who we got in the last wave, so it's cool to have both of them now. And this guy's design is just super sick. Obviously, he has that really cool BARC Trooper helmet, but then he also has all these tactical pouches all over his torso and his legs. And I also really love when GCC adds this extra back detailing to the figure to add just the extra pieces of gear that this kind of trooper would have. Now, this BARC Trooper helmet is printed on one of GCC's custom helmets, which has the holes in the correct spot so that you can put a rangefinder in there, which is always nice to see. And then the yellow stripe down the helmet is also printed really beautifully. We also have the inclusion of some really nice arm printing that goes all the way from the bottom of the arm up to the shoulder, and even includes the comlink detailing on his right arm. But like I've said, the pouches across the torso just have to be one of the best parts of this figure. It just looks super nice and makes it very distinct from some of the other types of troopers that we've got. I also really like the darker shade of yellow that they went with here, unlike LEGO, which went with the normal yellow color for their 327th. And putting him alongside some of GCC's other 327th figures, he just looks so good. And now, see, this is how GCC should be doing these more niche characters. This is one that does need a full figure because of all the torso detailing and the continuation of it through the legs with the strap detailing as well. It's also something unique, and while I prefer to see named characters in drops, these are the kind of troopers that are special that I'd like to see as well, where if we are going to get variants of different troopers, then we should get very high quality versions like this. The next figure that we have here is actually a GCC original creation, being the Jack-o'-lantern Trooper, and I think this figure is really fun as something special for them to do during Halloween. I will say though, I think that GCC should have released this figure a bit earlier because this drop happened at the end of October, and so obviously people aren't going to receive their packages in time for Halloween, and I'm just getting this now, and it's almost Thanksgiving, and I'm just now getting this Halloween figure, and it's obviously just not as exciting now that the Halloween season has passed. That aside though, this is a really great figure and uses a custom helmet just like the BARC Trooper with the helmet holes, but it's actually in orange and has some really nice detailing on the front, including a cool gold visor. I also really like the black detailing on the helmet because obviously it looks like cutouts in a jack-o'-lantern, and the green around the visor and on the fin of the helmet is a really nice touch as well. This figure also includes a comma and a pauldron made out of some really nice material, and it also includes that really nice jack-o'-lantern face detailing on the pauldron and also all across the comma. The body of this figure figure looks really good with the orange and green just sticking out a lot on that black base, and this is really impressive that they made this figure so well, especially since when Lego prints something like this, typically the colors become very washed on top of the very dark color, but the orange and green don't look blotchy at all and actually are very bright against the black base. The arm printing is one of my favorite parts of this figure, and I like how the shoulder part has the little green stem for the pumpkin at the top. Even though I always prefer for GCC to make some of the more desirable characters that the community's been wanting, while this isn't one of them, this is obviously something that they just wanted to do for fun for Halloween, and I'm really into that. But like I said, I wish that they would have included this figure in the previous wave so that it could have shipped by October, and then we could have had this figure for actual Halloween. But just taking that aside, the colors and the design of this figure is just top tier. The next figure that we're going to be taking a look at here is Captain Locke. And while in the Clone Wars TV show, we only ever saw him in his Phase 1 armor, GCC has made a Phase 2 version here. Even though we never saw this in the TV show, this figure and design just looks so amazing, especially with that sand green coloring. And this figure also includes a knockoff visor, and actually includes two of them, which is pretty nice, but it does look good to match the sand green coloring on the rest of the figure. Like I said before, we never actually see Captain Locke in Phase 2 armor, and so it seems like they took some inspiration from the Phase 2 Cody figure in order to make this character. But as you can see, the helmets are fairly different, and the one on Captain Locke looks so good with the fin area. The print lines up with the fin so well, and it's crazy how well aligned this is. You can see where some of the inspiration may have been though, because the stomach area is a little gray, and then obviously he also has that badge on his torso. The arm printing also looks really good, and I like how the right arm includes both the comlink but also the Horn Company logo, which is the company which Captain Locke is a part of. When this figure was first announced, I wasn't too excited for it, but having it in hand, it is super nice, and it has to be the second most figure I recommend from this drop, just after that 327th BARC Trooper. A restocked character that we got in this wave is the 187th Trooper, and while Lego gave us the purple version based off of some Hasbro toys, this one from GCC is based off the Clone Wars Season 7, where we see them on Anaxis, where he's instead given dark red detailing and a dark gray belt. There's not too much to say about this guy, but I think that the helmet detailing is done really well, where GCC really excels at printing the fins on the helmet so well, and I also really like the dark gray belt, and I feel like that just really helps mix up the design a little bit and add something unique to it. I will say though, I've never had this happen for me for a GCC figure before, but the arm actually came pretty damaged, with a small crack in the arm and also some of the detailing on the arm being a little bit washed. This really just isn't acceptable, but I'm sure GCC would replace the part if I asked. And I don't want to be too harsh on this, because out of my 3 years almost of ordering from Grandpa Clone Customs, I've never had this happen. But still, I did not want to just ignore it, and I still thought I'd cover that here. Overall, a really great character, but not too exciting since we have gotten it before, and I do think $22 is a little expensive for an army builder type of figure, and I'd like to see the price closer to around $18. The next figure from this drop is actually another restock, but it's not a clone trooper this time, but instead it's Padme in her black dress that we get to see in Attack of the Clones, which I've always thought that long like scarf looking thing that runs from her neck all the way down the dress looks really weird. But taking that aside, this is a really great figure that's super accurate to what it's trying to be, and the face is actually something really good here, where I think it captures Natalie Portman's likeness a lot more than any other custom maker has been able to, or than Lego has. The metallic dots all across the dress piece look really nice. And then another concern you might have with a figure like this is that since obviously she has a fairly revealing dress, she has a lot of skin showing, and Lego often can't produce flesh tones well on top of dark colors. But even though this is printed on black, it looks really good. I will say the arms aren't 100% the best, as they are a little bit blotchy, but they are still really good, and it's only noticeable if you're really looking for it and it's up close. I also like the headband detailing on top of the face print, and also she has an alternate head as well. And while we have gotten this character before from GCC, I think that this is a great figure to pick up if you haven't gotten her already, as I doubt Lego will ever make this outfit, and if they do, it won't be as good as this. And I thought it'd be cool to show off how it looks with my Firestar Toys Anakin, which is really cool to have both of these figures. And then here she is as well, alongside all the other Padme figures that I have, which she has a lot of outfits, and hopefully we can get some more from GCC in the future. Now, I have covered this in a YouTube short before, so I'll be quick, but if you didn't know, GCC also released 327th upgrade helmets that are meant to fix the helmet holes on the official Lego figures and just help to slim the profile of the helmet down a lot. They also sell these tan commas individually that you can add on top of the figures, and they're made out of some really good material that are even harder to rip than the official Lego ones. And it's overall just really sad to me that you have to upgrade a figure from a $45 battle pack for it to look good, but luckily GCC did at least put this option out. So if you want to do it, you can. But I recommend trying to get that 327th battle pack on sale because 45 bucks is crazy. Something GCC released a while ago but I've never looked at on the channel is their custom blasters, which unlike a lot of other people that make custom blasters are meant to fit in Lego's design style and language. And so they try to keep a simplistic look with the bar connections for the minifigures to hold onto the blasters, while still trying to represent some specific blasters in the Star Wars universe. My favorite of these has to be either the long rifle, which looks really good and has a lot of attachments for minifigures to hold on to, or it has to be the clone pistol, which looks really good as well, and can obviously be put with a character like Captain Rex or something like that. The standard clone blaster looks accurate, but just isn't very interesting to me. I like the original blaster more. And then there's also custom Stormtrooper blasters, which look pretty decent, but for some reason, the connection point between the bar and the minifigure hand is not strong at all, and the blasters are actually pretty loose in their hand. And this is only really a problem for the Stormtrooper blasters, at least from my batch that I have here. And so if you're going to pick any of these up, I do not recommend you pick up the Stormtrooper ones. And if you want a couple of these clone ones, then I'd recommend you pick them up, but don't get too many because they're 75 cents each, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but for a one-piece blaster, that is really expensive. And I feel like they should be more around in the 25 to 50 cent price range, because if you want to buy a lot of these for your clone troopers, that price really stacks up, and almost $1 per one is pretty expensive. And then the last two figures of the drop are actually two that I didn't end up picking up, and they are two 41st troopers based off of the Battlefront 2 game. And I'm just not a fan of GCC making these kind of figures. They're really well produced, don't get me wrong, but they were sold only together in a bundle for 56 bucks, which seems really expensive. And there's not too much special to them, whereas in the BARC trooper, for example, is a very specialized figure that I'm glad they made. But these two, while they do have some different markings, they're basically just 41st troopers with different helmet accessories, and that just is not interesting to me at all, especially when we could be using these slots to get actual desirable characters. Some of the characters GCC still hasn't made that I want to see include Commander Mayday, the Republic Commando Squad, the Bad Batch Clone Underground that we get to see in Season 3. There's a lot of characters from there they could choose from. Sergeant Hound from the Coruscant Guard, Clone Commando Gregor, Hex and Vetch, which are in Commander Mayday's unit, a restock on the Covert Ops Trooper, and the final one I can think of is a 41st Kashyyyk Scout in the 2020 style, which I really want them to make, especially if they could use a custom mold of the current Scout Trooper helmet that LEGO uses. And I list all those out, and I'm sure that there's more that I could think of too if I had more time, but it's just to prove that there's a lot of other characters that I feel like are just more desirable that I feel like they should be making instead. And I don't know if GCC is trying to like not produce a lot of the characters people want so that they can just put off to producing them down the line and try to build up hype and spread it out and just keep people waiting. But I feel like there's no point to that, and they could at least do a couple named characters people have really been wanting every drop. And stuff like this just does not excite me, and when it's 56 bucks for these two, it just seems like a lot. And then another quick little mention here, but I would love GCC to make some different Stormtrooper variants as well. Particularly, I want to see a Stormtrooper medic who looks really cool and has some cool green markings on him, as well as some green pants and a bunch of different tactical accessories and medical gear. Now, while that was everything that released in this drop, I did want to cover a very special drop that GCC released before this because I feel like it kind of applies to what we're talking about here. And so a week before this drop took place, GCC released like a mini drop, if you want to call it, and all that it contained was these two characters, being both Fireball and Nimic, who are characters from the Bad Batch Underground that I talked about earlier. And now I wish I was more excited about these guys because these are characters that I've been wanting and the community has been asking for. Because like I've been saying, they're named characters that people have actually wanted them to make, but they were only made in a very limited quantity, and this is because of the choice to make them with official LEGO helmets, which the gray ones are very rare to find because they've never actually come in any sets. And so it was very hard for them to source these parts, and because of that, the figures were only sold together in a bundle for 75 bucks, which is absurd. I don't care if all the parts are coming from official LEGO. paying 75 bucks for these two figures is crazy, and they should have just made this first batch with replica helmets instead, like they do for a lot of their other figures, and then they could have been like 20 or 25 bucks each, which would have been a lot more fair of a price. I will say though, they did put an announcement out saying that they are considering bringing these guys back with the replica helmets, which would make them at a cheaper price, which would help me be a little less harsh on these guys. But I still think for this first batch, just 75 bucks for these two is just crazy. And when it's the first time releasing these figures that a lot of people have been wanting, and you're just pricing a lot of people out, I think it makes it a lot less exciting of a drop, which is ultimately why I did not end up picking these two figures up, even though I would have liked to have them. But overall, I feel like this was just an okay to bad even wave from GCC, especially compared to some of the other troopers that we've gotten from earlier this year, especially because most of the highlights from me were just restocked figures and not actually new ones, which the only really good one of the new ones I would say is that Captain Locke figure. But anyways, I know this was a bit of a longer review, so I hope that y'all enjoyed it. But with that all said, remember that Christ is King, and may the Force be with you.